uh, all races, all cultures, all latitudes, all geographies are completely integrated, and this is not going to change, but to become more of it. So it's a fact that we are going to share our day-to-day life with people of all different denominations. And we have to learn to accept this fact as an indication of the progress of humanity. We are configuring one nation. We have similar interests, we have similar knowledge, similar experience, similar aspirations. We should enjoy similar rights. And that creates the possibility of a new society, free of violence, and where all can put our best resources and experiences for the common development. It's a new way of thinking. And we believe that is the only way that they can assure a future for humanity as things are. At the moment, we have a hegemonic system for historical reasons that is not the moment to develop now. The United States is the most powerful and dominant and arbitrary country in the world, although they are just 3 to 4% of the population. They control most of the financial resources, the international monetary system. Politically, they have the largest armies and they are deployed all over the world. And they are used to control and manipulate in international organisms all the decision making everywhere. That system of hegemony has created so much suffering, so many wars and conflicts in different places, so much poverty, and so much inequality that by now the people of the world are fed up with that situation and they recognize the necessity to change that order and to develop a multipolar world where all nations and all countries and all groups are equally represented, where the central value is the human being and the fundamental needs of the human individual, and not money, not state, not power, not force, no armies, no war, all these things that have been impregnating the social life of the planet and created so much suffering for hundreds of years. Because now we are talking of United States as a former British colony that developed, in North America. But also before, for many centuries, has been the wide West European cultures who have dominated a big part of the world. They have developed industry, they have developed technology, they have developed military capabilities, and they have conquered and dominated all the rest of the world that were at different stages of development. And that created empires, and that created a flow of resources where the large majority of the world were enslaved, and the small minority living in Europe, they got all the benefits of that, all the wealth. And then they accelerating the development in comparison to the rest. But the progress of technology, the problems of history, the confrontation in wars between these powers in Europe, in the Wide West, as we can call them, eventually brought them down and created the possibility for the United States as a fresher and far away located a nation to take over the imperial order. And this happened as a result of the Second World War in 1945. And then, without having had an enormous involvement in that war, but having provided all the resources for the nations that were at war, then they created a real monopoly of power. At the same time, they developed the atomic bomb, and then they had a configuration, concentration of power without precedent in human history. And for the last 75 years, since the end of the Second World War, they have dominated almost as a unipolar uh, power all the rest of the world. It's true that we have the Soviet Union, that was the association of Asian countries that were ruled in general by communist parties, but they were not really a counterbalance compared to the power and the influence and the resources of the West. That means Europeans and the United States. Europe became a subsidiary, a sort of of minion, a servant of the United States, but also it was a way for them to reach and to exercise great pressure over especially the countries of the Middle East, and for them to create a market for their own products and services, etc., etc. So that world today, we believe, needs to be changed. And that is the feeling, the predominant feeling of the majority of the population of the world. Around 80% of the population of the world are aligned today in an organization of countries that are called BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And many others are joining that. And they are sharing a common feeling that the world order is obsolete, is like wearing a small jacket that you cannot even cross it properly, is inadequate for the level in which the world has developed today. And we have to set up a new world order where every nation, every individual within each society, every human being enjoys similar conditions of respect, of equality, of possibilities, etc., etc., and start to occupy in that organization the central place, the central position, the central value. Not money, not power, not political, I don't know what, etc. Not other values that subordinate the human being. But all the social order has to be subordinated to the fundamental needs of the individual, of the human being. I am not talking of creating an individualistic order. We are talking of the human being as a person and his fundamental requirements. And we think that the most important thing at the moment is at least to fulfill the principles and the directions of the Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations, 1948. They are the fundamental. Of course, all that needs to be reviewed and modernized and adapted, some of those principles. But even the fact that the fundamental rights as consecrated in the Declaration of Human Rights of the United Nations in itself would be an incredible jump forward in the present world order. And those are the things that we want to aim, discuss, consider, listening to different perspectives and viewpoints, and have representatives of, if possible, all African countries, and especially all places of action in society: education, health, environment, human rights, etc., etc. All the fundamental problems should be discussed and considered by people from different activities in life at a continental level. And on all these conclusions of these discussions of different groups of experience, etc., should be known by everyone, should be broadcasted, should be published in different formats. And from time to time, this forum should meet again, needs to have an organization of dissemination of information, a media, and people then can follow the conclusions and the consensus that are being reached in each one of the regions of the planet. And we aspire to have a World Humanist Forum that is all the time broadcasting and explaining what is happening in terms of this new universal human nation that is being formed in different latitudes. We think to having that and to have a permanent involvement and participation in that will represent a huge step forward, not only for the African region, but for all the rest of the world. This is the project. I mean, probably I should have been more concise, but in general terms, it is the project of the forum that we are in the process of developing for Africa.
Yes. I will stop the recording a little bit. We can talk.
Yes.
Bye-bye.